Hi, everybody. Janet Eichorst here. Welcome to episode 7, I think, of this podcast series. I just got surprised by a topic that just kind of came in kind of hard and fast. So let's get to it, shall we? Commitment. I would not have expected that this was a topic that we were going to be talking about. There's so many aspects of this, of being committed and what I've committed to, and some of it's been in alignment and some of it's not. Today, what we are inviting all of us, including myself, to do is to pay attention to what I'm committed to and to kind of checking in to see, well, if that shifted. This is interesting because I haven't thought about this for some time, but the question I want to propose to you: are your intentions and are your actions in alignment? There's a level, I talked about this in the last podcast about reality and being honest with yourself. And I talk about that a lot, actually. But sometimes I can have these ideas, these hopes, these dreams, these wants, and their intentions, and some of them are completely aligned soulfully. It means that it's kind of coming from that consciousness that I am, right? Source consciousness. It's a really great idea, and it'd be cool to do. And then there's my actions, and this has been a challenge for me at various parts of in my life. Are my actions in alignment with my intentions? So it's really great to be clear about what my intentions are. It's really great to see if they are in alignment or if they're just ideas that somebody else has done or something else that I've heard of that sounds good. Like, I like the idea of it, but it really wouldn't fit for me. Sometimes I get caught in those things that's like, oh, somebody else is doing this. Maybe I want to do it. And then I think about it a little bit more and I'm like, I don't really want to do that. Right. So there's those, and those I like to, sort through and say, nope, not for me. Great for that person. But what is it that would really light me up? Is it in alignment with my soul essence? And how do I know that? We know that by aligning with our heart, getting our mind and body and spirit in alignment through our intention, through breath, through all these different spiritual practices, which I'm sure you have your own that work for you. And we use them to know what's true for us. And we check to see if it's in alignment. Our heart, that stargate of our true sacred heart, will show us what's true. Right? So that's how we know. We check it. And then sometimes we just try it on. And I imagine myself, like, whatever that intention is, like, living that or being with that, and see how my body feels. Does my body tense up? Or do I feel relaxed? It's another really great indicator. So whatever that intention is, right? Is it aligned or is it not aligned? Is it somebody else's idea? Is it mine? And is it unrealistic? That's a tough one. Is it unrealistic? And that, again, we can know based on what the truth of our heart tells us. Right? So once I know what that intention is, and I've gone through processes at various times where I'm really not clear. And I'll go through kind of a brainstorming session where I'll write down all these things that I think I want to do or experience, and just like go wild with it. And then I go through the process of kind of meditating with it or being with it, and then in getting clear about what's really fitting and what's not. And generally for me, when I've gone through this process, I'll pick, I don't know, like 2 to 4 things that are really like focuses for me. And a lot of them are more kind of generic, like working on my spiritual essence and getting more access to that. Like that's always bottom line for me. And then there's the more kind of mundane things, like I don't know, maybe I want a different place to live, right? So that's a different thing, right? Where it includes more engagement with our reality in a certain way. But when I get clear about what my intentions are and I know they're aligned, then I know how to use my resources, my time, my energy, money, focus. And so I don't know why my nose is so itchy, so I apologize if this is distracting to you, but it's itching right now. So there are those times where I'm not necessarily clear how to spend my resources, how to use my resources. So when I take the time and I know what these are, then it's easy because this is what I focus on. This is how I spend my life force energy. And this is what I'm committed to. And when we are in periods of great change, we give ourselves intervals where we look at those again and see if they're still fitting. And you get to determine for yourself how many of these focus points you want. Right? Most of us have some sort of family environment. My primary family is my dog right now. So that's, there's that unit and what it takes to maintain that and care for myself and care for my dog. Then there's, what we call our business adventures. There's fun, whatever that is, our extracurricular activities, which, hopefully we're getting to a point in our lives where we're so in alignment that we get a level of that true joy, not necessarily outward happiness. It can be, and oftentimes is, but we get that like soulful satisfaction, joy level in everything we do because we stop doing the things that aren't in alignment, right? And let's face it, a lot of our conditioning has kind of told us that we should be doing these things, and they have nothing to do with what's in alignment with ourselves and the true beings that we are. So, am I committed? Are my intentions and my actions in alignment? And I know for myself, I get a lot of great ideas. And sometimes it's the execution of them that can be challenging for me. And so, whatever your challenge is, are you in a place where you're getting enough support, whatever that means for you? So, my action, if I have problems with action, I get help with that. If I have problems with getting clear about what my intentions are, there's action I can take for that too. Because I really want for all of you to live in the fullness of what your soul and your essence and creation itself wants to experience here and create. And some of us are kind of those cutting edge leaders where there's not a lot of examples of ways that people execute things in the way that we are meant to do it for ourselves, right? That's a form of leadership. All right. So that's what I hope for everybody here. I wanted to make the point here that inaction is action. So sometimes meditation, sometimes stillness practices, those are a form of action. And another thing I wanted to just bring into this is, what am I committed to? Let's take a breath here. A couple breaths, actually. And just align with yourself. be you in a greater sense, whatever that means. It might feel like dropping in, might feel like just relaxing more. Breathing into your belly is certainly helpful. Okay, so commitment. I want to bring in the idea of self and other and kind of all that is. Self, community, the collective. So I am committed to what you could call God, right? And I like that term and that works for me. And it's very generic. It's consciousness itself, it's creation. That's what I'm committed to. Sometimes my commitment seems more self centered and not in a negative way. It just means that I have a responsibility to care for this body and my being and this self. And then there's times where I'm overcommitted to that, spending too many of my resources on that self, and are not paying enough attention to other. And sometimes we call that service, right? And to me, it's more like a balance. Like there's seemingly me and there's seemingly other. And both need or want, or it's appropriate for me to spend my resources on both. And when that's in alignment, there's just like this really beautiful dance where there's a flow to it. And then there comes a point in my reality where there's no difference between me and other. And my actions look like they are. Like sometimes I'm doing things on home-based things, and sometimes I'm doing stuff on non-home-based things. And there's such a flow and such a pulse of this action that I know there's no separation between me and other. Right? And my perspective on that shifts. And so, depending on when I talk about commitment, it's kind of paying attention to and seeing and feeling into and being honest with myself if there's too much seemingly outward flow or too much seemingly inward flow. And am I allowing that creational essence to find its way with that in kind of a balanced way? And because I'm in a human body, that level of self-care, like there's certain things that nobody can do on my behalf, right? Like I'm the one that brushes my teeth. I'm the one that takes a shower, right? I'm the one that takes care of my beloved dog, right? Like those are things that are my responsibility, we'll say. And some of those things nobody else can do for me. And there's other things ways that I am being asked to show up in on behalf of another that are mine to do too. It's that I've used this. I know when Jill and I were doing those podcasts, I've used this kind of metaphor before, and it applies here because I'm committed to that source consciousness flow. And sometimes I get handed this baton. Nobody else gets handed it but me. And I'm the one that's supposed to run with it. And run with as much freedom and as much of me as I can have on board to do that the best that I can. And sometimes that's on behalf of me, and sometimes that's on behalf of another, and sometimes that's on behalf of the whole. And when I get handed that baton, I want to do my absolute best, right? In an honoring way, right? So I hope that makes sense. And I just want to bring it in as a way for you to check out for yourself. Is that kind of, me, other, collective, what I do on behalf of society in general? Is that flow and is that kind of balance feeling appropriate? Because if I'm committed to being kind of the best version of me and the way consciousness wants to express as me through me, there's probably a bunch of all that that's sprinkled in through my life. Sometimes that's picking up trash on the side of the road. Gaia, our Mother Earth, that's part of it. That's part of it. Let's see, what else here? Am I committed to my own personal growth and expansion? Or am I looping? You know, am I? Am I committed? Am I really committed to being the best version of me? And that does take effort here on this planet because we are in physical bodies. And that's that intention and that action that I talked about. And we're always shooting for that appropriate level of action. That level of how I'll call it will, self-will. Am I in that little self only concerned about this? Or am I really open to that sort of divine will, that consciousness flow? That's how I want to live. And sometimes that is more self-focused, and sometimes it's not. Right? And none of this is perfect. I am not shooting for perfection here. If I did that, I would just be in complete misery, right? Because I've tried that, right? It doesn't work. The last sort of thing I'll say here is the question I'll ask is, are you committed to being fully you? And we talked a little bit about this earlier with intentions, like, are the ideas completely in alignment with who I am and who my soul is and who I am dimensionally? So this is where it's so important because nobody can do you. Nobody. So are you committed to fully being yourself? To taking the action necessary when action is called for, and having the best time you can doing it. Because that level of self-judgment can, I'll speak for myself, take me down quicker than pretty much anything because it leads to that rabbit hole. And I don't want to do that anymore, right? Even if I do things, even if my actions I discover are not in alignment, I'm not going to judge myself for that to the best of my ability, because perfection is not what we get to experience here. I get to pick the criteria for my success and how well I'm doing and how I show up and how I'm committed to showing up. Whether I do it super well in any given day or not so well on other days, that's okay. The fact that I am showing up and I am committed to showing up, that's what matters. And I know that I will always have what I need to be able to do that. Sometimes the idea is that I don't. And that's not true. That is so not true. I always have what I need. It's always available. And sometimes there's action involved into lining myself up to be able to receive it. Sometimes that's part of the process. And if it is, that gets to be celebrated and honored. Because showing up means moving through stuff, right? Doing stuff that I don't necessarily want to do. And I don't use that as the criteria for doing or not doing anymore, right? I do stuff I don't want to do every day, honestly. And that's because I'm committed. I'm committed to being the best version of me that I can possibly be. So thank you for watching or listening. Please comment, please share, please subscribe, and much love and many blessings to you. Bye for now.